Hey, welcome. My name is Adam, and in this video, we're going to be discussing an extremely interesting topic which requires a little bit of open-mindedness to understand. Because on the surface, this topic seems a little bit mystical, a little bit airy-fairy, but I promise you that you can actually observe this phenomenon happen in your life experience. So this isn't just like some flaky idea. It's something you can actually empirically observe happening in your own life. And what I've personally found that when I start to be more open to this idea of synchronicities, I start to experience more of them happening in my life, and it just makes my life experience more enjoyable. I can receive more guidance in my life, and I just feel more connected to the universe. So let's get right into it. What actually is a synchronicity? This is something that really started to come on my radar maybe about 4 years ago. When I started practicing a lot of meditation, I started noticing that in some scenarios, my life experience would just seem to flow so smoothly and so perfectly. So for example, I remember I once went on a vacation to Thailand where it was just me and my friend. I was 18 years old. We had never traveled alone before, and we flew all the way to the other side of the world just to go stay at a monastery and practice meditation. Now, this was something that was very risky to do because we had no clue where we were going. All of the signs in Thailand, or none of them are in English. We had no clue what to do. And I felt that since our intention was pure, that we wanted to practice meditation, I just kind of trusted the universe that somehow we would find our way. And luckily for us, that it seemed like just we were in the right place at the right time, where we would stumble into someone who would act as our guide, and they would show us where to go. They would help us avoid all of the common tourist traps and pitfalls. This is when I kind of got turned on to the idea of synchronicity, which is this idea that if you are in alignment in your life, if your energy is in alignment, if you're on the right path in your life, then you're going to get signs and synchronicities from the universe. You're going to get happy coincidences where things work out very easily for you. Some examples, just like common everyday examples that I personally notice in my life, is that if I'm kind of on the fence about a certain decision that I need to make in my life, and I don't know what to choose, like, oh, should I make this video or should I make this video? And then all of a sudden I decide, okay, I'm going to make video A. And right when I make that decision, somehow I'll see a triple number. So I'll look at the time and it'll be 11:11. Or I'll look at the time and it'll be like 2:22. See, this is kind of like a synchronicity, where I take this as like a confirmation that the choice that I just made is in alignment. Also, I remember I was at the store, I was buying some canned fish, and one of the brands of fish was named Gratitude. I don't know why, but this can of tuna, the brand was called Gratitude. And when I saw this was like kind of a signal for me to remind myself, like, oh yeah, let's practice some gratitude. And I just remember being very grateful for the fact that I'm in this grocery store and I can buy the food that I want. So really, we're kind of starting to look at reality in sort of a shamanistic kind of way, where we're able to actually use our experience to give us symbols and signs for what we should do in our life. Now, this idea, a lot of scientific, rationally minded people won't like the sound of this. They'll think that we're just being kind of mystical and we're not being very rational, we're not being very realistic. We're kind of just reading signs into our experience that aren't actually there. So what I've personally discovered is that reality is all interconnected. Reality is not made of discrete objects. It's not made of material. Reality is really made of a universal mind. Reality is made of consciousness. And I've spoken about this in my other videos where I've proven rigorously why reality must be made of consciousness and why consciousness really is the fundamental substance of reality. And then ideas like material or atoms and molecules, all of those things are occurring within consciousness. And really, this is, you could call it idealism, but basically all of reality is God's mind. Reality is a universal mind. That actually kind of changes our entire orientation to the way we interact with the external world. Because before, in the materialistic paradigm, the modern scientific paradigm, we think that the external world is separate from us and that it's mechanistic. It follows logical 1, 2, 3 step rules, and it's almost like the world is like a machine and it's mechanical. It has no deeper meaning. It's just meaningless. This is kind of like an existentialism where reality is completely meaningless. It just kind of is what it is. What I discovered is that when we start to realize that reality is actually made of consciousness, and you don't need to take my word for it, you can actually realize this yourself by doing meditation, really contemplating it for yourself, and even doing psychedelics as well, where you can actually see that reality is made of mind. It's made of consciousness. This perspective on the world really changes the way we interact with the external world, where now we kind of see that the internal world, me, and the external world are actually intertwined. They're interconnected, and I can actually get signs and messages from the external world. And I can use those messages to actually live my life. This is something that quantum mechanics has actually proven. When we talk about entanglement, the subject and the object are entangled. They're one thing. The observer and the object that's being observed are intertwined. They're not separate. You can't observe the external world neutrally, impartially, without being involved in it. So just by observing reality, just by living your life, you're actually participating in the reality. Like, the way your experience is being formed is not because of the external world, but you're actually participating in the creation of your experience. The scientists, I forgot who said this, but he said we live in a participatory universe where we are involved in our life, in our experience. So some examples of synchronicities in history would be like, for example, Tantra. So Vajrayana Buddhism, I have the book over there, Vajrayana Buddhism kind of starts to realize that all of our experience is made of mind, it's made of consciousness, and we can actually use our experience to inform us how to live. So in Tantric Buddhism, there's this concept called dakinis, where they're like these kind of mystical fairies, basically, but they're like spirits that kind of will give you signs as you're walking the Vajrayana path. Your experience actually becomes a sign that kind of shows you how to live. And this happens a lot in shamanism as well. If you read the book, The Teachings of Don Juan, the Mexican shamans, when they're doing their rituals, they're looking to the weather. They're looking to the birds and the plants to kind of inform them for how to do their rituals. Now, yes, I understand this could sound just like some infantile nature mysticism. It could sound very juvenile, like savages just living in the jungle, just like, praying to the rain gods so that it can rain. But I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about kind of integrating this shamanistic, naturalistic kind of view of reality where we use our experience to actually inform us how to live. So just to give you some examples of different types of synchronicities. Now, every single person experiences synchronicities in different ways. There's an infinite amount of possible synchronicities since reality is made of infinite consciousness. A synchronicity could happen in any form. Some examples of how it could potentially happen are visual synchronicities, so like seeing 11:11 on the time, or driving and thinking about something. Maybe you're worrying about your wife, let's say, and then you're driving and then you see a billboard along the side of the highway that says, "Forgive and forget." And it just says that on the billboard. And then you could take that as a message, like, oh, okay, so the universe is trying to tell me to forgive and forget, to forgive my wife. Also, you can have auditory synchronicities as well. So maybe you're asking a question of the universe, or maybe you're saying something and you're not sure if it's true or not, but as you're saying it, you hear an eagle in the sky caw, like at the same time as you're saying that thing. You could take that as confirmation that what you're saying is on the right path, that there's some truth to what you're saying, or that you're correct, you're in alignment with what you're saying there. You can experience synchronicities through symbols as well. So my girlfriend is really the one who really introduced me to this view of this way of looking at reality. And I've personally found it to be very real and very true. She's very into tarot reading and also astrology as well. So she uses astrological symbols and symbols on the tarot cards as well as this kind of way to read reality, to kind of derive deep meaning from reality through pattern recognition that otherwise would be difficult to see. So you can use symbols as synchronicities as well. Maybe you're walking down the road and you see children playing in the park, and then you can use that as a reminder to say, oh, I need to be more playful in my life. I need to stop being so serious and uptight. I personally get a lot of idea-based synchronicities. So I have a big book collection, and sometimes when I feel like I need some guidance, I'll just kind of scan my bookshelf, see what book feels right. I'll grab the book and I'll just open up to a random page, and what do you know? The first word that I look at is the exact sentence that I needed to contemplate deeper in my life. Also, maybe when I'm scrolling on Instagram or when I'm using my computer, I have this desktop called Momentum where every time I open a new tab, it shows me like an inspiring quote. And almost every single time I find those inspiring quotes to be like the exact thing that I needed to hear that day. Some kind of theme to contemplate for the day, like, oh, be more creative, or don't take life so seriously. So you can have idea-based synchronicities. Also, you can also have being in the right place at the right time synchronicities, where you're just like in the right place at the right time, where something happens where like maybe you find a $20 bill on the floor. Also, meeting someone that you just thought about. So sometimes you can think about maybe one of your friends, and then all of a sudden they'll just call you on the phone out of the blue. Or you'll run into them at the supermarket. So that's a kind of synchronicity. Also, dream synchronicities as well. Having a certain vision or symbol or message in your dream, and then using that as a sign or a symbol. So I remember a couple weeks ago, I had a dream that my room was reorganized. The furniture was in a completely different position. And I remember the new position felt more abundant and more free. If you're into feng shui, it's like the way your furniture is aligned in your house creates different energy flow in the room. So I had this dream of a different furniture arrangement in my room, and I remember feeling more abundant. So I woke up in the morning and I thought, okay, it's a great idea for me to shift my furniture in the exact same way that I saw it in my dream. And I did so, and it ended up being a great decision. And we're actually going to go a lot deeper into dream interpretation in a different video. Also, you can have nature-related synchronicities. So if there's a certain animal that you resonate with, like a spirit animal, or you can have synchronicities by kind of observing nature. So you might see the way that the trees blow in the wind, and you might use that as confirmation to be more like a tree blowing in the wind. Be more graceful and light with your body. Also, another synchronicity could be like meeting a guide at the right time. So when I was in Thailand, I remember I had no clue where to go or what to do. And at the monastery that I went to do my meditation retreat, I just ran into someone who is like a master traveler. He had been traveling for like 5 years straight. And he showed my friend and I all of the little tricks, all of the ways to travel the country in like the most optimal way without falling into all the tourist traps. Or maybe have you heard the saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So at that exact time in your life when you're ready to receive a certain teaching, then the teacher will all of a sudden just magically appear in your life experience. Maybe you'll find them on YouTube, or you'll run into them in person. And just generally, just the flowing of events, where events kind of flow very smoothly one into the other. Like maybe you come home and then it's like the perfect time to catch the soccer game that's on TV that you wanted to catch, or things just kind of fit together, line up perfectly. And it's not just a coincidence. Many people will say, oh, it's just, a lucky coincidence. But Einstein had this kind of deep intuition that God doesn't play dice. Nothing in this universe is random. It's not just like a random occurrence. There's always something deeper going on. There's some kind of plan. All right, so here are some tips for how to interpret synchronicities. So again, there are an infinite amount of ways to interpret synchronicities, and I'm not going to tell you how you should interpret your synchronicities, because you are an autonomous being. You have agency to decide the way you want to live your life. But here are just some tips that help me. Generally, when you see a synchronicity, you can just use that as confirmation that you are in alignment in your current life. You can use the synchronicity as a reminder that you are being supported and guided by the universe. This is very beautiful. Sometimes when you feel like you're all alone in your life, or you feel like your life is falling apart and you don't feel secure, you might see a car drive by and then the license plate says 444 on it. And then you might take that as just a reminder, like, hey, you're not going to be hurt or harmed. Everything's in alignment. Again, you see this as God winking at you, just for fun. Sometimes you just see synchronicities just as a reminder that reality is non-physical. And you can even use synchronicities as a wake-up call. maybe you're way out of alignment in your life, and then you see 1111, where you can be like a reminder, like, hey, let's get back on track. Or maybe you could use it as a reminder that even though it seems like you're completely off track, really you're secretly on track, even though on the surface it seems like you're completely out of whack. This was what synchronicities are, how they work, how you can kind of use them and interpret them in your life. And just really the reminder here is that all of reality is one. And I've personally found, as I raise my consciousness by doing meditation, psychedelics, and all the other stuff that I talk about here on this channel, as I develop myself and really raise my consciousness, I start to notice that my experience is a lot more synchronous. And I can really start to appreciate the beauty and intelligence of the universe for supporting and guiding every single person all at once, all simultaneously, which is a magical miracle. So synchronicities are just a way you can just have more fun in your life and just appreciate the miracle of life and just really be in awe that reality is not physical. It's all made of you. And this is something that you can contemplate for yourself in your life. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe, because I make new videos every single Sunday where I talk about how to actualize your highest potential as a human being and how to reach the highest levels of human development. On this channel, we're trying to reach into higher levels of human development by doing self-actualization practices. So if that's something that you're interested in, if you're interested in squeezing the full juice out of your life and becoming the best human being that you possibly can, then subscribe, follow along. You can also join the Self-Actualizer community, which is brand new. It's a hangout spot and resource center where we share resources about self-actualization and personal development. You can join that free community, and otherwise I'll see you in the next video.